All right, let's dive into a challenge that, let's be honest, gives a lot of engineering teams headaches. Building one single CI/CD pipeline that can handle deployments across AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. It's a tricky problem, for sure, but getting this right, it can completely change the game for your entire development process.
Does this feel a little too real? You know the drill. Juggling different deployment scripts for each cloud provider, wrestling with completely separate processes, and you've always got that nagging fear in the back of your mind that what works perfectly in one place is just going to blow up somewhere else. It's a super common problem, but the good news is you really don't have to live with it.
When it comes to CI/CD, you're pretty much living in one of two worlds. On the left, you've got the old way, messy, inconsistent pipelines for every cloud. It's risky, it's way too manual, and it just puts a huge mental strain on your team. But on the right, well, that's where we want to be. A single, unified pipeline that gives you consistency, security, and awesome automated control over every single thing you deploy. So let's really dig into why that old approach, one pipeline for each cloud, just completely falls apart as you start to grow. I mean, it seems logical at first, right? But it turns into an operational nightmare, and fast. And here's the big reason why it fails. Your CI/CD pipeline isn't just a bunch of scripts. In a multi-cloud setup, it becomes your central control plane. Seriously, think of it like the air traffic control tower for your applications. It has to see everything to safely and efficiently guide every deployment to its destination, no matter if that's AWS, Azure, or GCP.
Okay, so we've talked enough about the problem. Let's start architecting the solution. We're going to lay out the actual blueprint for creating that single source of truth for all your deployments.
So here's the big picture. It all kicks off in your source control. That's your one source of truth. A code change there triggers your central CI system, maybe something like GitHub Actions. Now, listen up, because this is the most important part. You build and test your app to create a single artifact, and you only do this once. That one artifact gets tucked away safely, and then, and only then, do you push that exact same artifact out to AWS, Azure, and GCP.
This brings us to the absolute core principle of this whole thing. Build once, deploy many. If you remember one thing today, let it be this. This simple idea is what separates a truly unified pipeline from just a messy collection of scripts. You create one trusted, unchangeable artifact, and that is what goes everywhere. No little tweaks, no recompiling for each cloud, one build to rule them all. So what does this actually look like day to day? Let's follow the journey of that single artifact, all the way from a developer's keyboard to running live in a multi-cloud production environment. Now, check this out. Look at how we move through environments. The artifact we built gets promoted from dev to test to staging. We never, ever rebuild it. The only thing that changes is the configuration that's specific to that environment. Stuff like database connections or API keys. And that gets applied when you deploy. This is how you guarantee that what you tested is exactly what you ship to production. Okay, so when you're finally ready for production, you have a pretty big strategic choice to make. You can go parallel and deploy to all clouds at the same time, which is way faster, but if something goes wrong, the blast radius is much bigger. Or you can play it safer and deploy sequentially. Maybe you roll out to AWS first, make sure everything looks good, and then move on to Azure and GCP. It's slower, yeah, but it dramatically lowers your risk. And here's the really cool part about this unified model. You don't have to give up your sophisticated deployment patterns. Whether you're a fan of blue-green, canaries, or rolling updates, you can orchestrate all of it from that central pipeline. Sure, the nitty-gritty implementation might be a little different on, say, AWS EKS versus Azure AKS, but your high-level command and control, that stays right in one place. Of course, all this speed and consistency doesn't mean a thing if it isn't secure and reliable. So let's switch gears and talk about two things you absolutely cannot ignore: how we manage our secrets, and how we handle failures without causing a full-blown panic. Okay, credentials. How does your pipeline prove who it is when it talks to a cloud provider? The old, incredibly risky way is to use static, long-lived access keys. They always get hard-coded, they spread like wildfire, and they're a total nightmare to rotate. The secure, modern way, use short-lived credentials. These are created on the fly for just one pipeline job, and they expire automatically. This just shrinks your attack surface down to almost nothing. And this all comes back to one of the golden rules of security: enforce least privilege. Your pipeline should only have the exact permissions it needs for the exact amount of time it needs them, and absolutely nothing more. Short-lived credentials are how you make this principle a reality. But hey, deployments are going to fail sometimes. It happens. So you need a rock-solid rollback plan. One way is traffic shifting. This is almost instant if you're doing something like a blue-green deployment, where the old version is still hanging around. The other main option is a full redeployment, just kicking off a new pipeline run with the last known good artifact. It's slower, yeah, but it's fantastic for cleaning up any mess the failed deployment left behind.
But just having a strategy on a wiki page somewhere is not enough. For a rollback plan to actually save you, you need a few things. First, automated triggers based on your monitoring. Second, clear ownership so everyone knows who's driving when things go south. And maybe most important of all, you have to test your rollback process regularly. Seriously. A plan you've never tested isn't a plan. It's a prayer. So let's bring this all home with one last, really powerful idea. We need to start thinking about our pipeline as more than just a tool for automation. We need to see it as a strategic asset for governance. This right here is the mental shift that ties everything together. Your CI/CD pipeline is the perfect place to enforce your company's standards, policies, and best practices. It's not just a delivery truck for your code. It's the quality inspector making sure that code is secure, compliant, and well-built before it ever gets near production. So what does that really look like? Well, your pipeline can automatically run security scans on every single commit. It can check your infrastructure as code against company rules. It creates a perfect, unchangeable audit trail of everything that happens. And it can enforce those crucial manual approval gates for production, making sure a human has to sign off when it really matters. So to wrap things up, let's just quickly run through the biggest don'ts. First, don't rebuild your artifacts for each cloud. Never, ever hard code credentials. Keep your deployment logic consistent across the board. Absolutely forbid manual changes in prod. The pipeline is the only way. And for the last time, please test your rollback plan. And that really just leaves us with one final question for you to take back to your team. Take a hard look at your own systems. Is your CI/CD pipeline a strategic asset that helps you enforce good governance and deliver code safely and consistently? Or is it kind of an accident of history? A jumble of scripts that adds more risk and complexity every single day? The choice and the opportunity to fix it is all yours. Thanks for tuning in.